Okay, we're in Simon Reish Mem Tesef Aleph, and we're up to the Mishna Berura. Last time we worked on everything beforehand, so now we're just going to pick it right up from over here. The Mishna Berura is commenting on the Shulchan Aruch that says that we do not go on Shabbos more than on the eve of Shabbos and Erev Shabbos, excuse me. We do not go more than a distance of 3 parselos. One parsel is going to be 4 mil. Each mil is approximately 1 mile. So we're talking about a distance of 12 miles. So we don't go more than 12 miles before Shabbos. Why? In order that we could reach our house when it's still day and we're going to be able to prepare for Shabbos properly. Okay, so this is where it comes from. And comes along the Mishnah Berurah and says in Aleph, Mitchilas Hayom. This is referring to from the beginning of the day over here. V'ukarov l'shlish hayom. This is close to 1/3 of the day. According to how long it takes the average person to walk. As we saw in the Gemara in Psachim on Sadi Dalet, it takes the average person is capable of walking. Surprise, surprise, 40 miles in 1 day. So this gets calculated from the beginning of the day. When it's if a person is traveling on a gullah, on a wagon slash car, or if a person is riding on a horse, aka he's going to be traveling faster than if he was walking, so then he could travel even more than this distance of 12 miles to his destination. Ad shlish hayom, until 1/3 of the day, which means your traveling could certainly take up 1/3 of the day. From the Bach, it's implied that he says that you could be lenient if you're traveling on a wagon even after halachic midday. And as long as you stop to rest, but when it's still day, as long as you travel stop when it's still day. In order that you could prepare for the needs of Shabbos. In other words, what we have over here is that we see that there's a leniency if you're not traveling by foot. That's what we already learned about. And then we see this other idea of maybe it's even better to stop traveling before halachic midday. The custom is not that way, stringency, but this is the basic idea, and this is the Bach. We already learned this Bach, and this is the idea when it comes to the traveling over here.
Point that last part in the Shabbat, if you don't need to prepare Yitzhak for Shabbos.
Yeah. So then you only have to worry about the other two reasons, aka making sure that you get there in time for Shabbos, and we're going to see preferably how much time a person should get there before Shabbos should leave. How much time should a person leave as a buffer zone to make sure that he's on time for Shabbos? Number one. Number two, the reason of going into Shabbos tired is not going to be preferable because that will detract from one's own Shabbos, as we learned at the end of yesterday. That's even if you have your food prepared. However, the case of the Shulchan Aruch is discussing the main reason of the Gemara in Sukkah, which we saw that was that you do not have your food that will be prepared, and therefore that's going to be a problem. We saw that yesterday, Sukkah Mem Dalet over here towards the bottom. So therefore, you have to contend with that potential issue as well, which is the main issue at hand that they are actually discussing. So that would answer that question. Those of the Mishnah Berura, they just clarify, crystallize some points in Mishnah Berura. It's relatively straightforward. Mishnah Berura Beis says over here, Labeso, if you're going to your house, Hainu Lamakum Shobisha, meaning the place where you're going to be resting over there. Gimel Sholech Labeso, you're going to your house. Vavshuhu, Mechavin Shabesu, Yellow Yosim, Renik Shabbat, Komal Kamakul Shemajul, Yodu, Klam, Yosef, Lohichin, Shul, exactly. Even though that in your house you're going to have more of an Onig Shabbos, more of a pleasure towards Shabbos, nevertheless, it's still going to be prohibited to just show up last minute without informing them that you're coming right before Shabbos, because perhaps that they're not going to go Shema lo yodu klam, so maybe they're not going to know that you're coming, and they're not going to prepare for you, which will be a problem because then he's going to be upset. He's going to be like, "Where's all my food?" Now we will discuss about telephones nowadays, right? If you inform them that you're coming, and we're gonna go into phones a little bit as well. This is we saw the Magen Avraham quoting the good as the Mishnah Berura quotes on the next line. In parentheses, that in our countries, most people they prepared a lot of Shabbos food. Therefore, they're not careful with this at all. Now, they're not careful with this at all, whether they are going to be in their house or in someone else's house. So the idea over here is that if you have ample food, then you don't need to worry about this. And that's what the Magen Avraham says. So that exactly addresses what you just brought up before, which is the idea of that there has to be the right amount. The question is there food that is prepared or not? If there's not food prepared, so then you have to worry about obviously to leave time to make all the food or buy all the food. But if there is, or for example, it's in a place where there's supermarkets and you could literally buy Shabbos within 4 minutes. So then you need to come on to the other two reasons, aka making sure that you get it before Shabbos, or making sure that you're not too tired before Shabbos. We're going to be discussing those details more. Many Achronim, he says, I saw, they said that nevertheless, a person preferably needs to be careful not to go or travel near the time when Shabbos starts, because many times people stumble with this and they come to desecrate Shabbos. Right? We already saw this as well. This idea brought down. And we need to be very careful. Because what's going to happen? The person who's going to be hosting you, or even in your own house, if you're going to come right by Shabbos, they're going to cook more. They're going to try to get the cooking right before Shabbos, and then they might inadvertently cook on Shabbos itself. And they're going to desecrate Shabbos. Also, a lot of times you're not going to reach your destination when it's still day. It's going to be dark. It's going to be Shabbos. Terrible. And there's so much of a desecration of Shabbos when a person is going out and in from the domain, and with his animal on Shabbos, he's going to be riding it. You got problems. Car, therefore everyone should pay attention. And you should make sure to stop even in the village. And don't let your evil inclination entice you and say, oh, you still got a lot of time left in the day. It's a short journey. No, no, no. You have to be very careful to reach your destination on time. If you were traveling on Shabbos before Shabbos and it occurred that you were going until dark, and it was already Bein Hashmashos. It was after sunset and before three stars came out. It was after Shkia and before Tzich Chavim. It was Bein Hashmashos, literally between the suns. You were within the border of the city. Motor lahalach b'soich b'simin taf. It's going to be permissible to walk in that area, like it says in Simin Taf, Helchos Erevin. See over there for more details. Tzarchli and Margol b'sus. You need to descend from your carriage and your horse. Look in Simin Reish Samach Vav. Shem Yevorim Yirz Hashem. Over there, we're going to explain it with Hashem's help. So this is the Mishna Berura over here, and this is the idea. A person has to be very careful, and with this regard, and that's basically what it boils down to. All right, those are pretty much straightforward over there. You know, going into some more details on explaining, but it's relatively straightforward. There's not much else that we need to add over here. There's a Ber Halacha before we turn the page over here. The Ber Halacha says, "L'chayr nira." If you're going for Dvar Mitzvah, okay, yeah, this is sorry about the shakeage there. This is the Ber Halacha over here discusses. Look, when we're talking about traveling before Shabbos, right? There could be a difference between the reason as to why you're traveling. Are you going on an optional trip somewhere for Shabbos or not? If you're going for a mitzvah, so then maybe you could totally travel Erev Shabbos. Because we learned in the previous simon that you can't board a ship within 3 days of Shabbos unless it was for a mitzvah purpose, in which case you could. Why? Because according to the Rif and the Rambam, going on a ship on Shabbos, it will detract from your own Shabbos because you might get seasick. And if you're going to get seasick, so then what's going to happen? If you're going to get seasick, so then you're going to get nauseous. If you're going to get nauseous, you're not going to eat the food on Shabbos. That's going to detract from your own Shabbos. So if it's going to be an issue. However, if you're going for a mitzvah, in which case we hold those segments about the mitzvah. If you're involved with one mitzvah, you're exempt from another. Therefore, we don't need to worry that you're going to be exempt from getting seasick. So then so too over here. So the Be'er Halacha over here is alluding to perhaps one of the reasons for this is it's going to be tired. Perhaps. I'm not saying that this is for sure pshat in the Be'er Halacha. Others brought this down as we already learned last time, and we're going to see even more about. But perhaps it's going to detract from your oneg Shabbos, because you're going to be very tired when you get there. You're not going to be able to be involved with Shabbos properly because of that. So, however, if you're traveling for a mitzvah, that doesn't apply, and therefore it would be okay. However, he says, over here is much worse than Siman Reish Mem Ches. When we're talking about Haflagas Asfina, departing on a ship within 3 days of Shabbos for a non-mitzvah purpose, for a mitzvah purpose. So fine, if it's for a mitzvah purpose, then we can come on to Ozig and mitzvah, pater mitzvah. You're involved with a mitzvah, you're exempt from another, and therefore will be permissible. Over here, we have an additional factor that we need to put into consideration, aka the fact that you need to prepare Shabbos food. And therefore, if you're going to be getting to your destination and there's no food in that destination right before Shabbos, you're not going to have any Shabbos food. That's going to be a major halachic consideration to keep in mind. And therefore, it'd be more of an issue. It says, look at Siman Reish Nun. Halacha really learned that Siman. Nevertheless, you could be lenient with going more than 12 miles on Erev Shabbos if you estimate that you're going to reach your destination when it's still day. It's referring to if you're going for a mitzvah. That's the Be'er Halacha.
Our list of Dvar Mitzvah was very expansive, though.
Yeah, correct. That's correct. Okay. The next Be'er Halacha discusses if you have food. It could be that according to the Ola Shabbos law plug, even if you have food, still the rabbi said this: you can't travel more than 12 miles on the eve of Shabbos. They meant it, even if you have food. The other rabbi says no. What are you talking about? If you have food, then this doesn't apply anymore. Just get there before Shabbos starts, right? And we're gonna see all the intricate details as we continue with the planes and everything like that, and how much you could travel and everything like that. Shulchan Aruch continues and says this is talking about you're going to a place that you're able to prepare Shabbos food. However, if you're in a place where it's impossible to prepare Shabbos food, meaning in a place, says the Mishna Berura, it's in a place where it ended your 3 parsaos, aka your 12 miles. So Lavush writes, Eliyarabba, just down it. Okay, they don't have it over here. So let's see the next page. Mishna Berura base. Yes, this is going on. Behind Eliyarabba, look at the Eliyarabba. Not a place where it's like a safe place. You could go even more than 12 miles. Just standing on the roads, that's not a secure, safe place. All roads are considered dangerous places. Talking about back then, they had more robbers, but and therefore, even if you have provisions, the amount that you need for Shabbos, it's permissible for him to travel from over there until he comes to a safe place. This is what he saw in the Lavush a little bit. This idea that there's an idea of being in a safe place. Many parcels. Make sure that you don't come too late into Shabbos, like we mentioned earlier in Sifkat and Gimel. This is talking about if you sent word, you inform them that you're coming. So fine, they're going to cook food for you, but nevertheless, so you could go even more than 12 miles, but nevertheless, you need to inform them that you're coming. Sorry, you need to make sure that you're not late, because even if you inform them that you're coming, right? If you inform them that you're coming, but what's going to happen? But now you're going to show up when it's still Shabbos, and that's going to be an issue. That's what we're talking about over here.
What do you mean while it's still Shabbos?
Yeah, of course. Once Shabbos comes, that's going to be a problem. Okay, this is the Mishna Berura over here. This is the idea. Let's dig a little bit deeper and go into some very relevant practical halachas, exact timing, how much a person needs to leave before they reach their destination. Let's talk about that. We're going to spend time on this. We're not going to finish it all today, but by the time tomorrow's done, we will.
There's a lot of
What?
a lot of factors.
Yes, a lot of factors. We're gonna get into it now.
If there's a
The
shower,
Derech in footnote 5 says, how much time do you need buffer time before you reach your destination? So they begin by quoting the Shalosh Or Letzion, who says at least 1 hour before. Do you need to reach your destination at least 1 hour before Shabbos? The Chazon Ish had the custom he would not travel on Erev Shabbos after halachic midday. Also, the Stipler wouldn't take a trip on Shabbos, wouldn't travel for more than 4 hours. Someone who's traveling in public transportation, a bus, train, subway, Amtrak, all the same thing.
Plane.
Plane we're gonna get to. Plane we're not talking about yet.
Okay.
Plane we're gonna get to. Or someone who hires a driver, Uber, taxi, Lyft. Or Letzion says, make sure that not only you reach your destination on time, but if the driver is Jewish, keep in mind in Israel, he has to be able to potentially reach his destination on time as well, to where he's going. Figured since we only have 10 minutes left, this would be good to do because now we could open up the tshuvas of the Or Letzion. Let's actually take a look inside of what the Or Letzion comments about this. It says over here, this is actually, if you want to look it up yourself, in Chelik Beis, Perek Tazayin. Os Vav, person who was prepared to go to another place for Shabbos, another city, is he allowed to travel near the time of Shabbos? Toiv li zor shalotis derech man kot lifnei Shabbos. It's good to be careful. Don't just leave for your destination a little bit before Shabbos. You gotta get to your destination 1 hour before Shabbos starts. Pretty tight? Look,
That's really cool.
I would say like this, where you're traveling. Are you traveling 300 miles on a 4 hour trip, 5 hour trip? Or are you traveling 30 minutes?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm just saying, what is he talking
Makes a
about?
big difference.
I don't know what he's talking about.
You're going to Baltimore.
I don't know what he's talking about. I would assume he's talking about a trip that is no more than an hour and a half.
Rather than to Baltimore on a Friday, or always goes Thursday.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna discuss that. Well, number one is that now I'm gonna think twice. Because now I'm learning these halachas properly. When I first learned these halachas, I learned the Mishna Berura. I did maybe a little here, a little extra here. This is the real way to learn. I mean, I don't need to preach to the choir over here. You guys know that's why you still show up. No one else knows that's why they don't show up. But you guys know that's why we're here. We all know that. That's why we're here. This is the way to learn properly. Finish. Because you learn clarity. You learn the actual halacha when you learn everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you do. So now, definitely gonna think 4 times before making any moves. But back then, we never cut it very short when we would go to Baltimore. It's 210 miles we're talking about. We're talking traffic. We're talking rush hour over here. We're talking New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Baltimore. These are busy places. There's a lot of traffic over there. You got to be careful.
Such 4 hours when there's no traffic, right?
We usually do it 3 hours and 20 minutes.
Well,
3 hours and
you don't leave at 8 in the morning.
No, we usually look. We have 4 kids now.
Mhm.
It's a whole different story. We never traveled with 4 kids. We don't go as often anymore. Usually the in-laws come to us, but we've made the trip with 2 morning, with 2, 3 kids. We only go at night now. And when you're traveling Erev Shabbos, you've got delays over here that are gonna happen. You've got diapers to change. You can't let us. You know what I'm saying? Kids are gonna go berserk, right? So we travel at night when they're sleeping. It's peaceful. We don't stop. We go straight. That's why one of the factors of when we got our electric cars, we wanted to make sure it had the range to get there. And we get there with extra, right? So we don't gotta stop nowhere, right? Even a 4-minute stop. Sometimes when you're going fast, and then when you stop, the kid's like, "Oh, we're here." Even when they're sleeping, they wake up, they feel a difference on the body. Oh, I'll just start waking up. And then they wake up, one kid cries, then you got to listen to a cry for another hour and a half. Got the chorus. We're not into that. So you gotta make a cheshbon over here. I mean, we're getting tangents kind of with all the jokes and everything, but the idea is that what trip is he talking about? I would assume he's not talking about more than an hour and a half. Now we're going to discuss planes. All right, let's continue going over here. He brings over here this whole idea, our whole simon in the footnote over here. And look, you've got to worry about the amazing invention called car accidents, right?
So true.
Right? That's what you got to talk about. Now, obviously, we don't want those to happen, but let's be honest, statistically, they happen. They happen quite often. And we've seen many times car accidents. And that could really slow you down. Now, at night, it's usually less of a problem because no cars on the road. But during the day, when there's a lot of people traveling, you've got issues with that. And you need to be very, very careful with this that we're talking about over here. Car accident could happen. It's unexpected. And then it could slow you down. So that's going to be a major issue that we're concerned about over here. That's why minimally make sure that you have a 1 hour buffer for the car accidents that could happen. All right? Then even if an accident happens, most car accidents, they're not going to delay you more than an hour. And you're not going to come to Chil Shabbos. So the 1 hour is a car accident. By the way, your own car. Now, you have to know your car, but anything can happen. You never know.
Breakdown, flat tire.
Anything, flat tire, anything could happen. It takes time to fix that sometimes. And let's say you have now a flat tire on the side and you can't fix it. Now you need a new tire. You don't have an extra tire. So anything can happen.
Oh, you
You
gotta
don't
have a
know how to
spare. You
change a
gotta have
tire.
a
You gotta wait for
spare.
people to come.
gotta have a
Gotta
spare.
leave time. Let's go to the next Shiloh.
You gotta have a
Shiloh 9
spare.
over
If you're
here.
traveling Erev Shabbos, you gotta have a spare.
Okay, but look, not everyone has a spare.
We
There's
gotta
no
get a
electric
spare.
car out there that has a spare tire.
You gotta get a spare then.
Well, they don't have them. So, you don't just want to go around with the spare in your trunk. Nowadays, it's really not a problem. You always get them fixed relatively fast. But look, it still takes time. And it's a delay. Next, Shaila, is it permissible to travel in a car, taxi, that is being driven by a Jew in a way that you know that he's not going to have enough time to go to his house? Let's say he's not religious. So now it's lifnei ivir lo yitite mixture. You're putting a stumbling block in front of a blind person, so to say. So he wants to say it's prohibited to travel on Erev Shabbos with someone who you're suspecting doesn't care about Shabbos and will not reach his or can't even reach his destination before Shabbos starts. That will be a halachic issue, like we just saw. This is obvious.
How much do you have to look into it? You're going somewhere of Shabbos and Eretz Yisrael, and you order a cab.
Yeah, so make sure you don't do that and you get your destination 4 minutes before Shabbos starts. That's what we're saying over here. That's going to cause a chilul Shabbos. That's lifnei ivir lo yititin michshol. He says you're putting a stumbling block in front of a blind person, and therefore you have to be careful with this. This is the Or Letzion. Now he quotes over here.
So let's say you're getting you have a car service to the country, and it's a Jewish driver. What time would you have to leave? What time would you have to leave New York? Let's say let's say you're giving yourself 3 hours to get to the country, and Shabbos is at 8 o'clock. What time would you have to leave the
You
country?
should get there so that he can get back before 4 o'clock, 4:30. So you should try to get there 4:30.
So no, but you got to give him 3 hours to get back, right?
Exactly. That's why you should get to your destination by 4:30. Do the math.
We're talking about late Shabbos.
Yeah, Lord. Yeah. And that was cheshbon. We discussed already last time. Now that Shabbos is longer, it starts later, so you have more time to travel. Finished. It's not a problem, which is obvious. All right. So that is definitely something to talk. Let's take a look at this Chazon Ish, this type inside. This is the Sefer Halicha Shabbos b'Shabbos over here. In the bottom of this footnote, this is an Aleph, Daf Peiches. They quote the Chazon Ish. He was stringent not to travel Shaloi Linsoyan Nasiya Arucha Berev Shabbos, not to travel long trips on Erev Shabbos. And the Stipler also said this is talking about if it's more than 4 hours. So Baltimore just makes the cut. You got to be careful. That's why we always just try to go Thursday night if it's possible when we do go to Baltimore. right? But if not, fine. You could travel over Shabbos. You could do a stop in the meantime. You stop in Philly with the kids, you know,
I know we
whatever.
didn't talk about planes yet, but how much time
Oh
are you
yeah.
supposed to pack in?
Oh yes.
What's before as far as actual traveling,
Oh
getting to
yeah.
the airport,
Okay, so that's exactly what we're gonna end with, and that's exactly what we're gonna do tomorrow.
main attraction,
Amir Hashem. That's coming up tomorrow. So stay tuned for more.
with such.
All right, Amir Hashem. All right, everyone should have a
Right.
wonderful day. Safe travels. Safe travels. All right, wrap up the sugya tomorrow, hopefully. Okay.
Okay.
All right.